Thank you for having me here today. It's pretty inspiring for me to be in a room like this and to talk to so many people who are doing so many wonderful and really important and very innovative things for the environment. So the first thing that I should tell you is that I was not raised as an environmentalist. Environmentalism was not something that was really on my mind as I was growing up, and through a series of experiences in my 20s, one of them living in China for a couple of years and things subsequent to that, I started to think a lot about where are we going as really as a civilization. How do we continue to develop in ways, this is my speechwriter, just sorry about that. I'll talk to her later. But how do we develop in ways that are, enable us to pursue a higher quality of life, both here at home, in China, elsewhere around the world, and do it in a way that still brings our civilization into balance with nature. And I was thinking a lot about that. I was, really frustrated about it for a while. I was angry about it for a while. I was scared about it for a while. And what I came to realize was that the only thing that my anger and frustration and fear was really doing was pretty much alienating everybody who was really close to me. Because like my brother would see me coming into the room and he'd be like, oh, here he comes to make me feel bad again. There's my brother. Thanks so much. And I just felt, there has to be a better way. So the first thing I did in 2003, I started a green design home furnishings company. I thought I'm going to try and make home furniture and home furnishings as modern and as eco-friendly as possible and show that green can be appealing and attractive. So I was really committed to this company. I threw everything that I had into this company. And after about a year and a half into that experience, and I'd started in Washington, D.C., I realized that I wanted to be in New York because so much of the best green design in that industry was happening in Brooklyn. And I had one employee at the time. We were a very small internet startup with this big vision and big idea. And so Lucy was my business manager. She was my bookkeeper. She was my personal assistant. I mean, there was it was a company of two. And we were working out of my apartment, and she knew me incredibly well. Well, she wasn't going to make the move with me up to Brooklyn. But on this last day when we were working together in D.C., she had agreed that if I would sell her my car, then she would help me pack up and move up to New York City. So it was a long day, and we were on the New Jersey Turnpike. It was about 10:30 at night. We're both a little irritated, and Lucy is seemingly starting to hyperventilate in the passenger seat. I'm like, are you okay? And I could tell she was really nervous. And she was like, Josh, look, I have to ask you something. I have to get this off my chest. I couldn't ask you when you were my boss, but you're not my boss anymore. And there's something I really, really need to ask you. And so, me being the kind of guy that I am, I immediately thought, oh my God, this is awesome. She's attracted to me. She's right. I'm not her boss anymore, but what am I going to do because it's a new apartment and there's a roommate and I don't know the logistics and how this is going to work and what's going to happen tomorrow. And so all these thoughts flashed through my mind. So no, Lucy, it's okay. Come on, you can tell me anything, it's okay. Let's talk about it. I don't know. I don't want you to take it the wrong way. No. It's okay. Trust me, it's okay. She had this really cute navel ring. I mean, it was just this was going to be a great night, And so she says, so finally I get her to say what's on her mind, and she says, all right, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but are you really an environmentalist? I mean, you're always in the shower, you never recycle, you were going to throw your bed out, I took it to the homeless shelter, you don't act like an environmentalist, you don't talk like an environmentalist, I don't understand, what is your deal? So, needless to say, Lucy was not attracted to me. And obviously she was quite infuriated with me, and the night did not go nearly as I thought it might go. But it was a very eye-opening conversation. 2 days later, I wrote a blog entry, and this was 2005, called The Lazy Environmentalist. And it was largely about me. And what I wrote, or the essence of what I wrote was, look, I personally believe the science. I'm not a scientist, but I happen to believe that global warming is happening. I happen to believe that it's man-made. Even if it's not, we have hundreds of other environmental challenges that affect our lives daily that we need to do something about, and I really care about that. I happen to take long showers because I do my best thinking in the shower, and that's probably not going to change. And you know what? I don't actually want a Toyota Prius. I would like to have an Audi TT convertible. If and when I can afford it, if you make it a hybrid or you make it run on biodiesel or hydrogen or electric, whatever. I don't even really care so much about the technology. If it's an eco-friendly choice and it's the thing that I want, I'll make that choice. And if you can help me be in the shower for a long time and reduce my impact, I'm going to make those choices too, which of course there are some cool low-flow shower heads, and it is becoming more affordable to run a solar panel out the window to heat it. It's still not quite as affordable as I think we'd all like it to be. But that was my point. Stop guilt-tripping me, stop talking about doom and gloom, stop talking about polar bears, not because those things aren't important, but because they don't work. They don't work for me, and I suspect that there are hundreds of millions of other Americans who probably feel the way I do. What are we going to do to enable people to become part of this process and actually want to embrace change? Because the tactics we're using right now, they're not working. So I just put that out there. And a couple of weeks later, a radio producer called me and said, this is interesting, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, this is kind of how I feel. So through a series of events, he asked me to host a radio show, and that led to a show on Sirius. And then I wrote a book because I thought, well, I have this brand and people are interested in what I have to say, and I know a lot about this. And that all caught the attention of Sundance Channel, and it's been an amazing 5 years. I mean, a really amazing 5 years. But what I want to talk to you about today are the lessons that I've drawn from these experiences I've had over the past 5 years of trying to influence, and mostly try to influence, those who are not part of the movement. I don't necessarily speak to the converted. I try and go out and talk to a lot of people, and that's actually what we do on our TV show, those who are distinctly and decidedly not green, and see if I can get them on board with change. So I want to share with you 7 principles that and this is kind of new stuff for me, because I've been thinking about this just over the last couple of months. I'm working on a new book, so I'm actually trying out some stuff on you guys today. But what I feel like is I can distill what seems to be effective to me in getting people to embrace environmental action. It's kind of 7 principles that I think are really important. The first, of course, I would say is use humor. That seems to be a good one. Because as environmentalists, usually not a room like this, but often rooms that I step into, it's, if I'm stepping up to the podium, it's like, great, let me just prepare to be guilt-tripped, Let me just prepare to feel bad, because here comes the environmentalist to take the mic, And that's kind of the battle that we're up against very often when we're trying to communicate to whoever we're communicating to, be it our customers, our stakeholders, that stereotype, that conceived notion of what we are and who we are as environmentalists. So that story about how I became the lazy environmentalist, I tend to tell that a lot. The other thing so I'm going to run through some examples of what I've learned and how I've learned it. So I want to tell you about when I had the radio show. This was in, I think, 2008, or yeah, somewhere around 2008. I wanted to do a show about eco-friendly cars. And I wanted to do something different that was going to be kind of interesting and exciting and hopefully get people to, to not just tune in, but call into the show. So I found this guy, Plasma Boy John Wayland, who is a drag car racer in Portland, Oregon. And John's actually one of the best, and he may actually be the best drag car racer in Portland, Oregon, because he has a 1972 Datsun called the White Zombie that goes 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds. And the reason why is because in the trunk of this car, John has like more batteries than you've ever seen in one place. So this is an electric-powered car. So I get John on the show, and he starts saying, man, you wouldn't believe it. This car generates 800 pounds of torque before it gets off the line. I'm going 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, and just last week I kicked the crap out of a Corvette and a Mustang. And then I went up to the drivers, he's like, and this is the best part. Then I go up to the drivers and I say to them, how do you feel about the fact that I just kicked your butt with a car that runs on American-made energy instead of your imported foreign oil? That's pretty cool. And he was excited. And he's like, torque, speed, American self-reliance, this is what gets me so excited about drag racing with this electric car. And suddenly our phones actually started lighting up with people who rarely call our show. I mean, we had truck drivers calling from I-95. I mean, like, man, how'd you do that? I want to get that for my pickup truck. That is just the coolest thing I've ever heard. And the conversation, I just, sat there and just let these guys talk. And I just was thinking in that moment, like, oh my gosh, like, this is incredible. I've got all these people having this conversation. No one even realizes that they're talking about an environmental solution, right? They're just talking about things they like. Power, speed, American self-reliance.